Welcome back. It is still, we're not even halfway through the season yet, and I thought, let's take a look at the numbers. I used to do stats videos once a week. I used to do them on Wednesdays. The popularity level just wasn't there, so I didn't bring them back the following season. But why not take a look? We'll start off with the Rocket Richard Trophy because that's the one that people pay a lot of attention to, almost as much as the Calder. And the amount of arguing that goes on about who's going to win which awards, well, there isn't really any around the Rocket because, I mean, you can argue, but it's dependent on the players. It's just a number. It's whoever gets the most goals. Right now, Draisaitl leads with 26. He's cooled off lately. Ovechkin's second with 24. He also seems to have cooled off lately, too. So, you've got Kreider with 21. Outside chance there. Troy Terry, who has had a remarkable start to the season. Coming into this year, there was no idea of which Ducks player was going to break through first. And it turned out that goal-wise, it's Troy Terry. It's absolutely. I mean, you might have been looking at Steele, maybe Jones, but yeah, Terry's got it with 21 right now. DeBrincat with 21. DeBrincat, to me, is a dark horse to actually end up winning it because when DeBrincat and Kane are firing on all cylinders, they just make it look easy. And so Patrick Kane could really help DeBrincat actually end up winning a Rocket Richard. And then there's Matthews with 20. And Matthews, hot, cold, hot, cold. It really depends on how long those hot streaks are for versus the cold streaks, because he can score 10 goals in 7 games. He could score 15 in 10 games if he really is on it. But he is 6 behind Draisaitl. We'll see whether or not they can make it up. And then anybody below that, I thought, well, if you're more than 6 behind the leader right now, probably not a fantastic chance at this point of getting there. But again, this is something I'll look at various points of the season, right? Then there's the Norris Chase, and this is where people get really upset, right? Because right now your leader in points in 36 games, Victor Hedman has 7 goals, 29 assists, 36 points. He's won the Norris before, so he's got a leg up with that. Then there's Fox right behind him, also has won a Norris before, 35 games, 5 goals, 30 assists, 35 points. What works in Fox's favor as well? He's the most recent winner of the Norris Trophy. So all of this works well for him. And that looks like it's the two-headed monster. However, Roman Josi, not to be outdone, 33 games, 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. And remarkable season for Josi. Beast mode for him a lot in the Nashville games so far this year. He's their MVP. Where is he in the Norris voting? Well, he's won the trophy before, so we'll see. Then there's Carlson out of the Washington Capitals organization. He has not won Norris. It's one of those things that he's been close. He hasn't got it. 34 games, 8 goals, 24 assists, 32 points. I have not heard the same level of excitement about Carlson. I think for Carlson, maybe it hurts him playing on the same team with guys like Ovechkin and Kuznetsov and whatnot. Maybe he doesn't get the kind of notoriety he might somewhere else. But either way, I don't hear as much hype about him. Then there's Ekblad, 33 games, 9 goals, 20 assists, 29 points. Florida fans have been telling you for years how good Ekblad is, and I think the rest of the league's finding out. And then you have Makar, who in 26 games has 14 goals, 14 assists, 28 points. And Avs fans will say it's Makar. It easily has to be Makar, but you can also make the argument for Josi, Fox, and Hedman. In my eyes, there's 4 guys you can make the argument for right now, and Makar would be in that top 4. And that goal in overtime, while that was a flashy goal and people might say, oh, it's just one goal. It's that kind of stuff, that kind of highlight reel stuff that will get more people to pay attention to what he's doing. And the 14 goals in 26 games, I mean, seriously, if he keeps up this pace, if he can stay healthy, not much Makar can't do. And then there's Quinn Hughes. He's had a nice bounce back this year for Vancouver, who haven't played since, it's been a while. 33 games, 2 goals, 26 assists, 28 points. And hopefully with the long layoff the Canucks had, now they've had another long layoff, hopefully it doesn't negatively impact the team and guys like Hughes. But Hughes has had a very nice bounce back season. Then there's Morgan Reilly in Toronto, right? He just got his extension in the past offseason. 32 games for him, 4 goals, 23 assists, 27 points. He's been very good for Toronto. And I think that, I don't know that I put him in the Norris conversation, just in general, but Norris is Reilly's had a very good career, and at some point you've got to think he's going to at least end up in the top 3. I don't think this is going to be the year, but at some point you'd think he'd have to, right? Then you've got Letang, and Pittsburgh fans would say, hey, Letang's quietly having a very good season, and they're right. 29 games, 1 goal, but 26 assists for 27 points. His defensive numbers, I think, are better this year than last year, but either way, Letang's been a very good story in Pittsburgh. Then you've got Shay Theodore in Vegas. 34 games, 7 goals, 18 assists, 25 points. And this is where you can start to have that conversation about, okay, so is it more important to have more goals and points? Is it more important to be an all-around really good defenseman? Or is it just better to be a really solid defenseman, Jacob Slavin style? Slavin's not on the board because I just went with top scorers. And then there's Seth Jones, who is in the top scorers. He's tied in points with Theodore. However, in 34 games, he has 3 goals and 22 assists to get to his 25 points, whereas Theodore has the 7 goals, so he ends up being put ahead. But Seth Jones, rough start to the season. I think it's been better lately, but again, his defensive game would likely rule him out of any kind of conversation for the Norris. And of course, there are lots of defensemen who are not on that board that we could talk about. And I've done that before. I think it was last season I filled the board with, here's who every single team could nominate for the Norris. And I limited it to 1 per team, I believe. It's ridiculous. I've always thought it's odd that we have so many awards that get won by forwards and we have one that gets won by defensemen. I think there's plenty of defensemen who should have awards, and we've talked about the Langway Award for Best Defensive Defenseman. I definitely think there's more to be had for defensemen than just the Norris. I think there should be other awards. You could have one for shot blocking and just overall defense. You can have some kind of a formula where you say, all right, this guy's got this many hits, this many shot blocks, this many, so he wins this award from the NHL. Something along those lines, right? A formula which somebody else can figure out, not my job. But I think that the Norris kind of exposes that there are a lot of players in the league that probably deserve a little more hardware than what they get. Then you get to the Vesna. Vesna's kind of the same in that you have one goaltender that wins the trophy out of 32 starters. And then you've got the goals against, the Jennings Trophy, which goes to the team that has the best overall defense. Not necessarily the team with the best goaltending, although those two have been close in certain seasons. But yeah, the Jennings isn't as much of an award for the goaltender as it is a team award. All right, Vasilevsky leads the way with 19 wins. I went in the wins column on this. 19, 5-3 with a .926 save percentage. I think it's Vasilevsky's to lose. And I say that even though, yes, I think there are other goaltenders who will get into that conversation, but they have to fight harder. Vasilevsky's got the name recognition. He's won it before. You've got Saros, 18-9-1 with a .928 save percentage. He's been nothing short of spectacular in recent weeks for Nashville. He's helped get them back into the hunt. They're first right now in their division, right? Campbell, 17-5-2, .939 save percentage. Toronto Maple Leafs fans will talk to you about Jack Campbell. They will talk to you about Jack Campbell completely unprovoked. You don't have to ask them. You don't even have to be looking at him for them to start talking about what a great guy Soup he is and what a fantastic goaltender he is. And I don't blame them. The one concern, of course, being his contract's up at the end of this year, and the longer he plays like this, the more expensive, the more long-term that contract could become. And Toronto's a team that's not exactly awash in cap space. And so if Campbell ends up being a $6 or $7 million a year goaltender, that's more cap space being devoted to a very small core of players, right? Tristan Jarry. Penguins fans will talk about how Jarry's been fantastic through this 10-game winning streak, and he has. He's now 17-5-4 with a .933 save percentage. There are some gaudy save percentages out there right now, just going to say. Freddie Anderson, 17-5. It's to me, I find it great that Campbell and Anderson have very similar records. Anderson's .929 save percentage is 10 points below that of Campbell's, but Anderson's been very good. He started off fantastic. His numbers have kind of leveled off a bit, but he's still very, very good. So Anderson, because Carolina's as good as they are, I think he will get some consideration, right? If Carolina ends up finishing, say, first overall, he'll get consideration for the Vesna. Shesterkin, 15-4-2, .936 save percentage. Rangers fans will tell you how good Shesterkin is. And they're right. He has been a fantastic goaltender for the New York Rangers. He has had quite the run. Then you have Canuck fans with Thatcher Demko. Since the change behind the bench, it's like we got a new goaltender. He's 15-11-1 now with a .920 save percentage. And his save percentage a month and a little bit ago was .898. So that's how well he's playing. He's taken a save percentage that was .898, brought it up to .920, and just keeps going up. So as long as the Canucks get to play a game soon, maybe we'll get to see what Demko's able to do, or maybe they don't get to play again this year. I don't know what's going on. And then I included Markstrom, even though his record at 12-7-5 is not as good as the others, because the .926 save percentage, that's going to garner some attention. Markstrom had a fantastic start to the season. It's leveled off a bit for him in recent weeks. But when you look at who Calgary's been playing against, it makes sense that the goaltending numbers start to kind of even out a little bit. But the Vesna is always an interesting one. And again, I know there's other goaltenders that are not on the board that people will be upset about that they're not on the board. I'm just saying that for the Vesna trophy, for the best of the best, I think it's probably going to come down to, at this point, Vasilevsky, Campbell, and maybe Jarry. As weird as that sounds to me, after the playoffs and what we saw, could be Jarry. Then there's the Art Ross Trophy. Few names on this. McDavid with 53 points. Draisaitl 53 points. But Ovechkin's right there with 50. Who does Alex Ovechkin think he is? Keeping up with these kids. And then Huberdeau with 44 is the only other one that I looked at and I thought maybe. Maybe if Florida goes on like this fantastic run where they're scoring 7 goals a game like they're the Avalanche. Maybe. But yeah, Huberdeau at 44. Just missing the Cuts Kadri, because I can't see Nazem Kadri winning the scoring title. I just can't see it. So the Art Ross, it's likely going to come down to McDavid against Draisaitl, and we'll act surprised about that at the end of the year. Then you get into the rookies. Always a lot of discussion when it comes to rookies, right? So Nadalkovic and Swayman are the 2 goalies I put on the board. Put them up first. 10-8-4 is the record for Nadalkovic. .914 save percentage. I think he's been very good. I don't think he ends up in the top 3, though. Swayman, 8-6-2, .918 save percentage. He's been pretty darn good. I don't think he ends up in the top 3 either. So I don't think we're going to see a goaltender as the winner of the Calder this year. Raymond still has the inside track, in my eyes. 34 games, 10 goals, 19 assists, 29 points. Trevor Zegras, when he gets back in the lineup, if he can pick up where he left off, he's definitely going to be one of the favorites too. 30 games, 8 goals, 17 assists, 25 points. So it might be between Raymond and Zegras, but Moritz Seider saying not so fast. 34 games, 3 goals, 19 assists, 22 points. And he warrants maybe the conversation in the Norris as well, right? There you go. So Seider, who can hit, he can skate, he can play defense, he can play offense, he can do a little bit of everything, may end up being a favorite for the Norris. If Raymond's totals drop and he's, now he's 5 points below a point per game, it is possible that Seider ends up getting the trophy for the Calder, and he is a future Norris winner. I believe that. Jeannot, 35 games, 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points. A rookie generating a lot of buzz right now is Tanner Jeannot, and it's for good reason. Nashville, with Saros, with Yossi, and Jeannot, these are 3 guys who could end up being finalists for awards, and Jeannot is excellent at everything as well, and he can drop the gloves if he needs to. And then you have Dawson Mercer with the New Jersey Devils. 35 games, 9 goals, 10 assists, 19 points. Don't want to rule him out either. Very good, 2-way forward, able to score. I think that he is capable of putting up points at a better rate than he has so far this year. Could have a big second half. Who knows, right? And then you've got Michael Bunting in Toronto. Still a rookie. Still listed as a rookie. 32 games, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points. Not likely to end up in the Calder chase, but Bunting's been excellent for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Lundell, 30 games, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points. Very good 2-way forward. And if they wanted to think outside the box a little bit and say, so who could end up being another Bergeron type, it is possible that Lundell gets into the conversation and gets himself some votes for the Calder as well. In the end, the Calder will usually go to the player who gets a lot of points, the player who gets a lot of the notoriety that comes with that. But it doesn't necessarily mean the best one on the board is Zegras or Raymond. We may look back years down the road and say Lundell was the real star of this bunch. Drysdale, 36 games, 3 goals, 13 assists, 16 points. It's been a trial at times for him with Anaheim. I do worry that Drysdale maybe gets asked to do too much too soon, but high draft pick, highly sought and all that, so this is kind of how that works with top prospects, right? Then you've got Jonathan Dahlen in San Jose. 30 games, 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points. Dropped off a little bit, but very good rookie season. And then Carolina's favorite rookie, Seth Jarvis. 22 games, 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points. Jarvis has been fantastic when he's been in the lineup for Carolina. So there's definitely some excitement to be had with this rookie class. I think it's very talented. And so for me right now, if somebody said, so who do you think is going to win the Calder, I'd say probably still Raymond, but don't rule out Jeannot. Don't rule out Jeannot going on a bit of a run for Nashville with how many situations he ends up in, and having very high quality line mates too. So we'll see what happens. Now the President's Trophy. Does anybody want the President's Trophy? See, President's Trophy is seen as a curse. The way I see it is more that, yes, you have a team that finishes first and gets the President's Trophy, but there's a lot of teams with pretty darn good records, and they're all really solid teams. And this year it feels like there's a lot of gaudy records. So Carolina with a 758 points percentage is on pace to be your President's Trophy winners. Florida, 721 is their points percentage. Toronto's at 719. Tampa's at 708. Washington at 706. Colorado at 700. That's ridiculous. Those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. The Rangers, 686. Pittsburgh, 682. Nashville, 657. And Minnesota, 656. So those numbers are, yeah, they're kind of sort of ridiculous. And it kind of shows why when I'm working on that board over there, some nights I'm like, I don't, maybe, sure, I guess I could put this team there, but, And so, yeah, got to watch that because it can drive you crazy. But yeah, President's Trophy hunt is going to be an interesting one. Would I be surprised if Carolina won it? No. Pretty sure that'd be the first time they had ever won it. I think it'd be very entertaining, though, if Toronto won the President's Trophy. And just for everything then would be around if they lose in the first round and they win the President's Trophy. But if they win in the first round, and if they could get to the second, and then do they win the Stanley Cup? Do they become the first team to win a Stanley Cup and a President's Trophy in a long time? Right? So I think it'd be highly entertaining. And of course, Tampa will be in the mix at the end of the year because they are. They're going to be in the mix. Carolina won the President's Trophy last year, didn't they? I think they did. I'm just thinking back to last season. They won it last year, didn't they? Sure they did. That's sure. And then I'll close this out with the Hart, and I'm not getting into numbers because the Hart Trophy is the one that everybody argues about the most because it is this nebulous thing, right? So it's the MVP to his team. Does his team have to be in the playoffs? I think so. I think it's important that the team be winning because if you're the MVP on a team that's losing, okay, but the team should be winning. But do you penalize a player by not giving him the Hart Trophy if he's on a bad team, but he is the best player in the league? Well, the best player in the league, that's the Lindsay Award. This is for the MVP. So it's odd, right? The Hart Trophy just in general is one of those things that we will never agree on. We will never agree on who wins the Hart. Ovechkin has an excellent chance this year. Absolutely, Ovi has a fantastic chance. If he ends up winning the Rocket, if he ends up in the hunt for the Art Ross, if he gets over 100, maybe 110 or 115 points, I would not be surprised to see Ovechkin win the Hart because Washington at this rate should end up being one of the top seeds in the Metro, right? Then you've got Crosby right there with him. I wouldn't have had Crosby on the board as recently as 6 weeks ago, but the last 6 weeks, pretty good for Crosby. And he is fueling what has been a huge turnaround for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So the Penguins have really brought it on, and it feels like Crosby is the one that's really got things going. Gensel's had a fantastic run, I think, because he's got Crosby back with him. And then you get Rust out there, and it's ridiculous. Austin Matthews will get attention. Again, if Toronto ends up finishing first, if Toronto ends up being the number one seed in the NHL going into a playoff, that would give their MVP, who I believe is Austin Matthews, a good shot at the Hart Trophy. And then I was trying to think of a Kane. So with the Hurricanes, you've got Aho, right? You've got Svechnikov. And could you make an argument for Slavin? I would argue that you can make an argument for Slavin for the Norris Trophy. I would make the argument you can make that he belongs in the running for the Lady Byng, which I don't have on the board. And maybe, but with the Canes, it feels like there's so many different players who can be the hero on any given night. It is tough to name just one guy and say, without him, they're done. Right? So without Svechnikov, they have Aho. Without Aho, they got Svechnikov. Without both of them, they've still got Teravine, and they've still got Niederreiter. They've still got scoring there. So with the Canes, I had a hard time thinking of anybody. Vasilevsky would have to be the one for Tampa in my eyes. Stamkos, very good start to the season. Kucherov's missed way too much of the season to be in the hunt for the Hart. I think Vasilevsky's been shown to be their MVP so far this year, and I think that would put him into the Hart conversation, but Hedman's right there, and Stamkos might generate interest. And then for the Rangers, great year for them. Panarin or Shesterkin, who gets the votes? Does it go to Shesterkin based on his goaltending numbers? Does it go to Panarin based on the fact that they were iffy at the start of the season, and then it just turned around at the exact same time that Panarin's numbers started getting better? And then when Panarin hasn't been in the lineup, you can tell. You can really, really tell. So that tells me he might be the MVP. But again, you can make the argument for Shesterkin that he stole them games early in the year. McDavid and Draisaitl could end up splitting the vote, right? They're both at 53 points, so who's the MVP? Is it McDavid? Is it Draisaitl? I don't know. And if the Oilers end up falling out of the playoffs, what does that do to the hopes for McDavid or Draisaitl for the Hart? Odds are it probably submarines both of them. Kaprizov should get interest because he is Minnesota's, he's the engine for them. And if he's going to be out for a while, which is the speculation, that's going to hurt Minnesota a lot. Then you've got Barkov in Florida. When he was out, their record started off pretty good, and then it fell off. Now, whether that's because of losing Barkov or not, they've looked better since he came back. So I think Barkov's going to get attention. Stone in Vegas, I think, has shown that he should get some Hart consideration as well. What a difference it makes when Stone's in the lineup. And so he's right there. And then I have McKinnon for Colorado because points per game, if you look at points per game in the NHL, McKinnon leads. McKinnon's the leader amongst players that would qualify for that. So while he's not going to end up in the Art Ross conversation, he's definitely not going to end up in the Rocket. He doesn't get the goals for that. He may very well end up getting some MVP votes at the end of the year if Colorado continues to win at the rate that they're going right now, right? Which is at a 700-point pace. Well, 700 points. 700 is their points percentage. So the points, they'll end up with, it'll be a lot. And then I've got Hedman on the board. I know I should have put it next to Vasilevsky because they're both Tampa Bay Lightning, and I did that with other teams, and I apologize. But yeah, Hedman's going to end up getting some votes too, I would think, if he continues to play as much as he does and play as well as he does. So, almost halfway through the season. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. And I apologize for players that aren't on the board. I know there's other names to be mentioned, but there's a certain amount of time that's allotted for this before people kind of glass over and just go do something else. There's the fact too that it's just the one board, and I've filled up 2 columns, and I feel like that's good. That's enough. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.